Hello everyone, welcome back to the Training 1-to-1 podcast. I'm holding the mic on my left shoulder just due to a technical issue, but that's okay. We're always going to adapt and overcome. Morgan, without further ado,
Closest thingy.
Closest to the thingy, nearest wins. Yeah.
that's my thing.
So, in the news today, came out that Messi isn't staying with PSG, more than likely, at the end of his contract in like a month or two. And Al Hilal offered him 400 million a year to go to Saudi Arabia, and I'm wondering how much that would be per minute.
400 million a year.
Yeah.
Why is it always maths? Can we just get like a flat number? Just a flat number. God bless you.
We definitely can't use a calculator for this, can we? Like,
No. Because you can get it.
400 million in minutes.
400 million a year.
So it's 400 million, per year, and then
Grand, you get the 365, right?
Don't even talk.
You get the 365, you divide that by 7, and then you multiply that by 4.
days. You need to find how many minutes are in a day.
Yeah, but then you get that down and carry the 7. You're not listening.
I actually had something. I had the method and you were after me.
Did I?
Yeah.
Well, that's
Nah, I'm
unfortunate.
just going to go with a get. No.
can we do it like hours rather than minutes? Is like
hours. You can do it.
like minutes is like a pain to get there.
No, I had the maths. I had the equation and you were around it.
King, you did in your hole.
Oh, sweet, I'll
No,
get it
you did in
again.
your
I'll
hole.
get it again. Give me 30 seconds to get it.
All right.
I'm not under pressure. Talk for 30
All right. All right, I'll think of my own maths theory. Yeah, but I mean, oh God. See now, Ben Lynch is watching and he's going to be thinking, this guy again. This idiot.
It's 60 by 60, which is 3,600 minutes in an hour. Okay? 3,600 by 24 is what?
Did you say 3,600 minutes in an hour?
Yeah.
King, it is 60 minutes in an hour.
Yeah. 3 seconds, that's seconds, yeah.
Oh.
Well, then that's easier. So 6 minutes an hour.
Mm-hmm.
60 by 24
Mm-hmm.
is 2, 4, 2, 6, 12, 2, 4.
400 million in seconds. I'm going to say, Niall,
No, minutes or seconds. Minutes. How much
you want? You can. I have them all here. The whole breakdown. So
minutes. So 6 minutes an hour. There is
Don't look at me, man.
24 by
10
60.
by 24 is 240. 240 by 6 is 240 by 2.
Oh, stop talking.
480 by 2 is.
I should do this myself.
be
by 3. No, it shouldn't be by 2, shouldn't it? 480 plus 480 is 960 plus 480 again is.
I don't even know what equation you're going after here.
1340.
yeah. Now, what are you gonna do? Divide that into 400 million?
1340. That's minutes in a day.
Yeah.
So there's 1340 minutes in a day, and there's 365. It's 1340 by 365 is the equation.
Yeah, but then what about the 400 million? Just going to throw that in there somewhere? Get it down to a fine art?
Divided by 400.
My guess is 80,000 euro a minute.
What did you say, G? Sorry?
80,000. I'm just getting the ball rolling.
That'd be a lot of money.
A minute. Did you say a minute?
80,000 a minute.
So we're going 1 minute. Yeah. Oh, like... I don't know. Like, oh, like...
I reckon.
Is this in euro or what?
80,000. Yeah.
It's in yen. Yeah. It's in dong. It's in cock. Ah, do you know, like...
Just guess, will you?
Get the 7 and carry it. You're not
I'm
listening.
gonna say like a 20 euro a minute. 20 euro a minute. That miles off.
I don't know. Because I'm not the man to ask. I'm doing no math here.
20 euro. I'm gonna go 20 euro a minute.
Okay, so there's a huge gap between them two.
I just pulled the number. I didn't even think of the equation.
Okay.
And before you start judging me out there, people, relax, will you? Work the day's work. Not doing an equation here on a camera for you.
That's not
Piss
work.
off, like.
That's not work.
Do it with a pen and paper. I reckon we could do it with a pen and paper.
What did you say?
You said 20.
I'm
20
gonna
euro.
say 400.
See, that's That's just
That,
playing
I'm
the
not
game.
gonna, I'm
That's
not
just
gonna
playing
name,
the
but I'm
game.
gonna
But
actually calculate
if he's
my
playing the
effort.
game, what am I playing?
So it's against my. It's not in my. It's not in my.
Best
I'm
in
miles off with
interest
80,000.
to go early. It's not in my best interest to go early.
I'm locking in that 400, but I'm actually gonna calculate the way I was trying to do my head. But I won't change my answer.
I'm not going first ever again or second.
You know.
No, no waste of
This,
Morgan?
this mathematics biz.
Morgan.
I'm going to say I need to go outlandish because otherwise we'll be playing it too safe. 400 million. You said 20, did you? Outlandish, that wouldn't be too much.
480,000.
What was the number?
A minute.
400 million.
400 million.
And then per
Minute.
1 year.
In minute, yeah.
Yeah, per minute.
You have the yearly amount, so you're trying to get back down to what you get.
Yeah, no, I think 400 million is Jesus.
No more hints. It's in your court now, more.
I'm going to say 50.
Okay.
Niall, what's the answer?
772.
Nah, that's silly money. That's silly money.
A
Sound
minute.
Welsh could be
It's
yeah.
13 euro per second.
700 a minute.
Yeah, it's
not 13 per second. Like.
A minute.
That just doesn't make sense to me though. €700 a minute.
I won.
Yeah, did you? You're on fire now.
No one cares. You played the game. You didn't. There was no maths in it. You just went. I'm gonna go higher.
Kinger, you're popping off the wrong person there.
You said, what, 20? I went with 400. I didn't pick a number right beside you.
My one was a shocking guess. It wasn't even logical. I actually feel like an asshole. Like, miles off.
Cliche, you were trying to do something. I'm just. I genuinely though. I was looking at you mid round there, going 365. That's all that's in my head. 365. Can't contemplate a number. Well, let's breeze past that. No more maths, please. Honestly, this makes me feel bad. I'm so bad at maths in my head. I'm so bad at maths. But
Let's move to the good stuff.
move to the light
taste
stuff.
test.
Taste test, baby. Yeah. We'll probably never get a sponsorship off these, so do not be afraid to slate. Yeah. Unless they come in with a big offer. Yeah.
My rule, pink grapefruit.
Well, -1 already. Shifted on. Oh, okay. I was going to say 70. Oh, Jesus. Sorry. Just didn't know we were on a silent podcast.
You went for a double there.
Do I say what it is?
Jesus Christ.
I know what everyone's going to say.
He does that and then just proceeds to talk himself.
I know what everyone's going to say.
So that's low. Kinger! This is a taste test. Not an absolute. Yep. Oh, toothpaste.
What toothpaste do you have, son?
Nice toothpaste now, Vern. Yep.
I'm not going to lie, boys. That doesn't taste like that.
Really?
I don't get any taste off that.
Can I go double?
I need taste.
Is that where you took two sips?
Okay. Okay. I have my verdict. Pass that on there.
What are you saying?
I hold an opinion on it too.
Yeah, I think it's middle of the road. It's about 5. It's all right. Like, it's not great. It smells like toothpaste, no?
Yeah, it's
I
about a
think it
5
smells
for
like
me.
toothpaste.
It tastes like that blue Energizer drink, but like diluted.
Less kick to it.
Diluted. Yeah,
Much
yeah.
less kick to it, yeah.
Diluted.
I can't get any taste off
I don't like the labeling. The labeling's cat. When I see pink and I see white, I think of medicine.
I like
Yeah.
Okay, what's your number?
I'm gonna give it a.
Oshi, is it an Irish company?
I'm gonna 6.8.
What's going on there?
Yeah, it's the most unappealing bottle. I'm not picking that off the shelf.
Conversations going on at the same time. I'm giving my rating.
I'm sorry, King. Yeah, no, you're right.
No,
I
it's
actually think it is.
fine. 6.8. 6.8.
That's a high score.
He liked it.
I thought it was nice.
Would you pick it off the shelf? What about the marketing? The marketing's about 3 for me. Look at this bottle.
Can you?
No, the bottle is nice.
The
The
bottle's
bottle
great.
size is lovely.
I agreed.
But again, this is competing against the likes of Gatorade. It's competing against the likes of Energizer, Lucasade. I'm just picking them off the
Can
shelf quicker.
I see the image? Come on, you've lost me. What the hell is that? What is this? What's the name? How do you pronounce it? Oshi. Oshi.
It sounds like Norwegian or something.
There's that. Yeah, I think it's Polish.
Is it?
Someone, yeah, Polish. Polish, yeah.
How did you know that, Kinger?
It's Polish, Kinger.
It says Krakow, Polska.
Oh,
Nice.
It's Polish, man.
What is it?
Polish. Police. Polish.
Your arm's getting so tired, isn't it?
That's all right. You gotta catch my arm and swing it though.
Polish. Yeah. Right. Well, that's that.
Yeah, interesting drink. What was your rating, Gary?
Yeah, it was a number.
Honestly, you didn't get a taste of that. I'm going to give it a 3.
Whoa.
Honestly, 6.8.
Why not 7?
Because it's not quite a 7.
7's a strong number.
Yeah,
7's a strong number.
6.8 are like
You're both you're 0.2 decimal places off.
Yeah, but 6.8 and a 7, there is a gap. I know, obviously, there's
No,
a gap
it's
there.
6 or a 7.
Well, no, you could say a 68 would be a C and a 7 would be a B. And if you go
Yeah,
off a
that's
rate, if you
actually
go
a
off a
good point.
percentage system,
That's a good point.
A 7's a
point.
strong number, and a 1
Yeah,
to
it's a good
10,
point, though.
strong number. 7.
Yeah, but it's not strong enough to be a 7.
So it's a 6.8.
On the topic of opinions, today's conversation is going to be rooted around coaching. We haven't talked about coaching, I think, since the League of Ireland underage podcast, if I'm not mistaken. But this is more so in the weeds of actually coaching. A bit not as high level as most conversations. I want to get into the nitty gritty on a few things. One of the first questions that popped to mind when it came to this conversation was, what's one thing from your coaching that hasn't changed from the moment you started to today?
Ooh. That's a good question. It's a really good question.
I'd say, Gary, you answer first because you've been coaching the longest with me.
I'll say what first came to my mind. I think my manner, I don't think has really changed. I've always been kind of, I don't know, yeah. Obviously, no. Yeah, no, I'd say that. Like, I'm kind of the same bubbly coaching style I've always had. I don't think I've ever really changed that.
How would you describe your coaching style? As in, obviously it can vary, but in general, what's your baseline?
I don't know.
Super. Right. Super, Daddy. Nice one.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, you're quite
I think it's, you have
I
to
don't
be
know.
versatile. Like, I don't think anyone is one style. But
no, definitely not. Definitely
I
not.
think, the manner I have is the same as I've kind of always had. I don't really think that's much different.
Yeah, I'd back that up.
That's probably
I'd
one
back
thing
that
I'd say I've kept throughout coaching.
Look at myself. Obviously, I'm just into supplemental coaching. I would say something that hasn't massively changed, but it's ever evolving in the sense that I'm always kind of trying new things in it, but the principles remain the same, is like chasing specifics about technique would be my thing, I would say. Coaching technique side of things, seeing a passing pattern, looking at the technique side of things instead of just like what's actually going on in the exercise and stuff. Just trying to get into nitty gritty about actually the technical requirements, every step, every touch, every tiny little detail, every micro detail. That's kind of something I've liked since I was like 14, 15 when I was playing myself, looking at other players, looking at actually what steps they're taking for, let's say it's a shot, what steps they're taking, where their hips, so on and so forth. Even in FIFA, I was the exact same when I was younger. Set up your players certain when you know you're going to be in a certain good position. I was just obsessed with it. So that hasn't really changed. Yeah, that would probably be my go-to. Emphasis on technique.
Mine's a bit fluffy. It's a bit like similar to yours, like energy. I'd say like the energy that I've always been enthusiastic and kind of buzzy and all. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
Your manner has changed, I think. No, I mean, like from Stella, for example, when we were there together, I think you're much louder now and much more assertive in your tone compared to what you were at Stella or even Minute when we were working together then. I think like your manner in terms of how you would approach like coaching points is the same, but I think your manner in terms of controlling crowds is different.
Is that natural progression though? Yeah. Experience?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's kind of what I meant when I was like, obviously you do change, but I think I'm like Kinger. Like I think I've the same. I only realised that in the session done today with the younger group that I still had that same. This is exactly how I would have coached that session before. Obviously better control and all. As you learn better tips and tools to do that, but I don't know. Yeah, I just think I have that same youthful buzz when I coach.
That's a good question, though.
That is a very good question, yeah.
Like, trying to think about that is kind of hard, I think.
Yeah, it is tricky. I think I kind of got a head start though, because I thought about this question this morning. One thing that I don't think I've ever changed is a foundation of organization to minute details. So, for example, like picking specific exercises, knowing like the player ranges. Let's say, for example, if it's a rotating grid, 4 corners, and I know, for example, I'm working with younger players, I will intentionally be 3 steps ahead of that session or that exercise, knowing that if I'm working with younger players, I need to be much more hands-on compared to like other players. That was something that I've had since I was like 16 coaching, picking certain exercises where I had full control, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've kind of loosened the shackles now a little bit. I was probably a bit like micro intense for a couple of years when I was coaching in Stella Maris, I would say, to minute details. But I would definitely think that the organization side and a want of flow is definitely something that I would die by the sword on, I would say. But yeah, that was an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
Another question I had: pick somebody on this couch and tell them one thing that you like about their coaching.
Ooh, that's kind of that is kind of cute, isn't it?
You could pick. I mean, if you got something about everybody, yeah. But if there was something that really stood out, you could say it that you really liked about people.
Ooh. Trying to think of details. Yeah, I think I'd probably have
You
one
want
for
to
each
be
of them.
Slated.
I'll go
No, you
first.
don't have one for each, is there? Do you want to go?
You can go. You can do me first, in a nice way.
I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah,
Well, you were the one actually I was thinking about.
Yeah.
2 or 3 things.
that's kind of cute, isn't it? Kind of cute, like.
Because I have one for you, and I have one for you.
Are you gonna say it or like? This is a podcast.
No, sorry. You go. I don't have one for
No,
you.
I
I'm thinking about.
I thought he just said he had one for me. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm trying to get one for each. Because I thought one listening for you too.
Yeah. Have you got 3?
I think I could pull 3 out if you asked me to. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna have to go now because that's where we're at. You probably heard me today at the camp just screaming, "Yes!" every so often. That's a one big trait. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal, King. Relax. Of energy, I like it. I like it a lot. So yeah, I like that. I've been using that myself, especially with younger kids. Because I'm like, sometimes quite structured. I'm kind of in between. I like the structure, but I also like the flow, and I also like the fun. So I'm trying to find which one works. So your enthusiasm to the most micro stuff is very funny, but also very good, and it's good for the kids, and they buzz off it. So yeah, I like that. No problem. G-man. Whew.
Let's just start with this fella.
Where to
You climb
start?
mountains with him. You're in lakes.
Where to start? Actually, because from a coaching point of view, obviously we're all very different, but of course very similar. We all fall under the same bracket, but are very different people. What you're good at, G, is communicating. So you'll find a lot of players. Obviously, you mentioned Ben earlier. Ben's probably getting a lot of good conversations out of you because you come across intellectual.
I come across.
Intellectual. No. I knew he'd bite. No, you are intellectual, so the conversations, say, are very good. I'd say a lot of younger players especially, but even older players, because they probably get neglected in terms of conversations in senior environments. So conversations very important, coming from a place of understanding football-wise, but also people-wise. You don't get that a lot. So I think that's very good. Obviously, the coaching side. We know what the deal is there, but that is a standout characteristic for me. And then daily, you're all right, like decent coach. I'm trying to pinpoint one thing with you because you do have something, and I don't know how to describe it. It's a hard thing to define.
I'm trying to.
This voice, because you have like little nuances that I kind of, but nothing like immediately springs into my mind. But there is so much there. You probably notice I ask you an awful lot of questions about coaching, because I know you're just a sponge to it, and like tiny little details and going down the rabbit holes currently, like with the perception and scanning. I find that really intriguing. That you'll just go on something. I think that's really cool. And I like how you immediately bring it into things. So I've tried to do that as well, where it's like I see something, I'm like, I like that. I'm going to do that now, instead of people put it down in a notebook and don't do it till 4 months, 6 months, a year down the line. You're very immediate, which is good. And you can see that in coaching as well. It's very, very quick, very innovative. So I'll probably go off that nuances. But the best way to describe that, I was trying to think of it, not a generic way of saying it. Probably the best way of describing that, though, is just a pure love for coaching, which is nice. Just pure love. You absorb, you implement, you get it wrong, you go again, you find a way to make it work, and it's just, it's beautiful. Sorry, man.
I'll start with this man beside me because I coach him first.
Yeah.
I would say, and I've only actually realised this the last, weirdly since I read the book on Liverpool assistant to Man Linders, and he has a saying in it where he says training is our transfer. So it's like that's how they like obviously improve. Like training is so important to them. And I think the way I look at session plans or drill design meticulously is from working with you originally, because I know you were like so specific with drills. When I first started coaching, I was a bit more kind of like I'll just do a 3v3 game. But then obviously working with you, it was like, well, can I make the 3v3 game more relevant to whatever it is we're working on? So I think, and I've actually proper dove into that now personally. So I think I got that inspiration or kick where I was like, when you were doing it, I was like, oh, I really should like do that and look at things a little bit more and make it more specific to the context. So I would say that for G, and that kind of clicked to me the last couple of months. Kinger, I would say, because you remind me of when I was younger coaching, and like the exact same thing Morgan said, I just love the energy. It reminds me to enjoy it a little bit more. And it's literally the most important thing when you work with young kids, because at the end of the day, like for example, I had a session today, I don't think I actually gave them 1 or 2 coaching points, to be honest. I literally asked them things they'd done before, which was with Kinger last month, and they were banging out all the answers, and then just played loads of games, and they were all jumping around like mad at the end. So energy is more important with the younger stages in particular. Than any coaching point. Or you talk, like I don't think I talk a time whenever I talk in a session. I don't think I talked for more than 40 seconds in the whole thing, and that was at the start of the session to try quieting them all down. So I would say that for you, because it reminds you when I was kind of first starting coaching and the enthusiasm, and you can't really let that die, I suppose. So it's a good reminder to always have. And then Morgan, probably probably actually in terms of seeing things differently in a game that I wouldn't have picked up on, like just little, like the way you talk about the way you haven't changed your thing as a coach, where you have always focused on the small detail. I'd say like I'd have a conversation with you and I'd see something way different in an individual sense, or even in a pattern, maybe just completely different set of eyes that I suppose I learn from in that sense. So I'd say eye for detail for you.
Nice. Take that.
Is it me now? I'm gonna talk to you Morgan first.
Go for it.
I would say your work rate, I think, is off the charts. I think
Thanks.
You've never been in a rondo with him then?
Are you serious? Oh, get a bill.
I think session creation, that you're always kind of looking for a new session, something new, and you're always working. I would say it's quite impressive. There's not much more.
I'll take that. Thanks, Kier.
G-Man, I'd go similar to what Morgan said, the emotional side, that you're kind of like more than a coach to people. So like if someone has a problem with you and they're always chatting to you, you're always kind of also your control of the session. So like you can control a big group, you can control like a one-on-one where it's like it can get emotional, it can be a chat, or it can be you get work done as well. Like you can control 1-to-1, you can control 2-to-1, you can control big groups, young groups, old groups. So I'd say controlling the session is quite good. And Gary, I would say football, I'm not going to say football knowledge in general, but the desire to know more for you. I think you're always on the hunt for more info. And I think that's a great quality to have.
Good synopsis.
Nice.
It is a great question.
I've got a few things that I want to spit out to the room. So I'm going to start just from right. I always start right to left. Morgan, I've got 2 things for you. I think the first one I'm going to say is I think you are beautifully ignorant to other people's opinions. And I think it's a very nice way to be as a coach. I'm only saying that now. in this light, right? So I remember sitting on the dugout with Morgan. We were playing with Stella, or we were coaching with Stella. He had he wasn't even a coach on the line, and he was making he was saying his own opinions, knowing that he wasn't staff, and they were great points. And there was one thing he said where the centre forward flicked the ball, and he goes, "He's really good at affecting the ball." What the hell does that mean? And Gareth at the time was like understood it, but didn't understand it, and it's just if I was sitting on a dugout and I wasn't staff, I'd be zipped. Whereas Morgan was like, yeah, he's great affecting the ball, putting out opinions, if that makes sense. I wouldn't say I probably worded it wrong in the sense that he doesn't care about anybody else, but yeah, just he had not saying you don't right to be on the bench, Morgan, as a coach, but it was
I hadn't.
yeah, it was fascinating because Jesus, I can remember the exact moment. I was like, oh my god, that is it. That is 100% it. Kind of like what you said about the lens of seeing things differently. I thought that was really cool. I think from a guy that never coached a team to have the ability to spot things on a real football level is a real gift. I think it's pretty cool. And I think where that transfers nicely into is that it wasn't a case where I think a lot of people go from working with grassroots up. I think you were more than comfortable to dive straight into working with professional players. And I still find that to be a little bit difficult, I have to say. Maybe because I wasn't that particularly good as a player, but I think your ability to get across points and you manage the dichotomy well between coaching respect and not over coaching with those players. It's kind of your philosophy of repetition removes doubt kind of exceeds what you're ever going to say to people. I think it kind of just shows good emotional intelligence. Whereas I think that is difficult for me because on the control side, I feel like I lose a lot of control working with pros, and that's why I feel really uncomfortable. So it's not it's a difficult thing to manage, if that makes sense. But I think you have that nailed, which is pretty cool.
Cool. Thanks.
Yes, I thought it was interesting. I'm going to echo for Kinger what I said about, or what the lads said about the energy. I think that is a gift. I don't think everybody has that. If you look at anybody who can coach, there's one thing about being able to coach 9-year-olds and make them feel great, and to jump in then to working with senior women, that is the two most different things I can ever think about in terms of coaching. So I think that's a real gift. One thing that I would say as well is definitely when it comes to the coaching side is I think you've got a really good understanding of what is a good session. So I think coming from the player's perspective and probably from your environment of who you played under and who your current staff is, I think at the core you understand what a really good session is. So regardless if it's a kid or if it's a senior player, you know what to put on is going to be a benefit, if that makes sense. Because I don't think a lot of people have that either. And then Gary, the first thing, or the only, not the only thing, the big thing that stands out to me is your desire never to break your principles. You're the only person that I've coached with, if I'd say hand on heart, didn't care about results when the gun was pointed to your head.
Factorial.
Pretty cool. And everyone says that, development over, results and all. I could safely say Gary's the only person that I've ever worked with that could live and die by that sword. I think
That's
it's a real
fair.
testament to your moral character. I think it's an amazing thing. Because I've been victim to that. Lying to myself. Whereas if we didn't win the game, I'd be angry. We could have played well, but it doesn't matter. Thought it was pretty cool. So yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Well put.
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting working with different guys, same umbrella, different styles. That was interesting.
Completely different styles.
Yeah, and then another question I think to move on that we had was, what's one thing in your coaching that you have put in the bin entirely that you don't do anymore?
I used to have stops planned out, so I'd be I'm gonna stop it after 5 minutes.
It's really interesting.
After 10 minutes, I'm gonna stop it after 15 minutes.
With team sessions or every session or?
So say if I was on an attacking session,
Yeah.
my first stop would be defending to make it harder. My second stop would be something on attacking, and my third stop might be a competition.
And would you have the detail of the stop planned?
No, I'd have the defending one. I'd have a few points down, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'd wait until I see it and then try and stop it as I see it.
Yeah.
Attacking one, like in that example, the attacking one, then I think I'd be the same. I'd write down a few points what I'm looking for from the session, and then I'd wait and see it, and I might even just catch one and stay on that one. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So let's say if I was doing attacking, and I was like, I'd write say or possession, right, and I'd write quality of pass, body shape receiving, like with 12s, 13s or something, body shape receiving, something else, movement to receive. I'd write them down, and if I see one of them, I'd be like on it. If I see 3 of them, then I'd get to 3 of them in as well.
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
jot them down as little bullet points and then work off that. And then I'd bend it off, which I'm glad I did.
It's good.
Did you what would be your method now?
I'd still, in my head, I still think the opposition one's not a bad one. That you, if I'm doing attacking to make it harder, work at the opposite the problem first. I always think that's good.
Sorry, are you referring to if, let's say, you're a coach in an attacking phase? Are you talking about speaking to the defenders first, as
create your problem.
so creating the problem for them?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So if I'm doing pressing with front three,
Orientation.
yeah.
Yo.
I'd make sure that we're bopping it out first before I done it.
Yeah.
And then that would be, and then I just kind of get that and just go into it and
See what
coach
happens.
what I see. Yeah.
Cool. Do you want to go?
I'm still kind of thinking.
I think I've got 2 small ones because they're just kind of top of my head. Probably, One definitely with all the players or players who I know in advance can definitely do. That this is quite specific to the way I coach, but like our skill combinations. Even today, for example, like with Keane Levy, for 25 minutes, I didn't use a single bit of equipment. No equipment, just free space, and was coaching like specific jabs, feints, change direction, skill moves, little touches, techniques in free space. Because I think a lot of players, when they see cones, discs, poles, they get congested to this area. When I don't like that. If it's a case where I'm working something quite complex. So if it's isolated ball mastery with a cone, no problem, stay at a cone. But if it's like free flow movement with like 4 or 5 different movements in it, I like that the ball can just go away and you just got to go and make it work after that. I like that free space, and that's only something I've kind of started doing recently. That's 1. 2 is there was one in my head. You said it to me a while ago, like years ago, I think. Maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I had it in my head 2 minutes ago.
Do you
and
remember
it's
what it was?
after leaving my head, and I'm an idiot.
I said like not to do, or
Not even, you weren't even saying it to me. I think you just said it, and I was like, oh shit, that's what I was struggling with, I think.
I remember this conversation.
I can't remember now. I can't
No,
even
I
think
remember.
of it.
Yeah, I remember because Morgan pulled me and said, "Geez, Gary made me think there for something." Yeah, I remember
What
that
was it?
Back to the control thing, that makes
go
me
on.
really anxious about not having equipment. It's like equipment's like an anchor. I don't know what it is. I also think, right, and this is me probably being a bit ignorant when I was younger. I used to think like organization and what a session looks like on the eye is really, I still do, about how like important it is. Like if I rocked up and I saw a coach who had all his cones out, bibs ready, footballs ready, I was like, he's done half the battle. Like he looks the part, irregardless of this, if the players are poor or whatever. He's done his job, like organization wise. If I saw somebody like back in the day, like using no cones or equipment, I'd be like, I don't know about that.
it's funny. I'm on the opposite. That's what I was just thinking. I was like, what is it? I think I've gone away from that. Like, what would you call that? Like a show house coaching where everything. Because if you think of some of the toughest parts, like I always use this when I describe transitions with teams. I do this like 3v2 game that goes continuous both ways, and it's just mental. Because the whole idea in a transition, if you're counter-attacking, is obviously it's quite chaotic. The other team's restructuring, you're obviously breaking and trying to exploit it, and also a transition can't be coached in a nice-looking manner. I would argue. Red zone defending can't be coached in a nice manner because you're just blocking things on the line. I used to be like that where it has to. Obviously, your selection still does look good. Where if you're working with kids, the lines aren't big and all the other stuff, and nobody's punching each other. But when you get to the higher level, it has to get messy because moments of the game can be messy. I actually wasn't thinking of that, and then when you said it, it kind of dawned on me straight away. That's something I don't really care what my session looks like. If it's what I want it to look like, that's more important than how it looks to an outside person.
I think for kids, need a little bit more structure. Like, go to that cone, stay at that cone. You know what I mean? Whereas when you're working with like top under the 16-year-olds, you know what I mean? Like if take that like an underage group, let's say from 6 to 9 years of age, I like having the ability to go, yellows go to that cone, and I know that they understand like that's the home base. That makes sense.
Yeah,
And
but then I think what you're saying is from a games point of view. Then
the
but that
actual
makes sense.
exercise, but that's what.
Yeah.
Like the setup, would be somewhat structured. Like there would be parameters of like here's the zone we're playing in. But I mean, how the actual because I'm trying to think if there's another example of something I wanted to work on. If you think you're doing a defending session, all right, there's no point in your rondo popping the defending team around. And you see this when you work with kids where, especially if they're good players, you usually can get the ball moving and you make the rondo tight to give this defending team success. They get annoyed when they can't string two passes together and you have to go, lads, what's the topic of the session? Defending. All right, so it's not meant to be good attacking. So a kid like that, like, to the eye, that rondo would look really poor because the ball's hopping out every 2 minutes. But you have to know the goal. If the goal is to win the ball on first touches, not, then it's working. So that's what I mean. Not the parameters are always somewhat structured, but it's what's going on in the session. If it doesn't look nice, because everyone thinks it looks nice if the ball's popping around or whatever it might be, but it's not like the goal of the session is what's more important to me. But I would have been like that where I'd go, the rondo has to be popping and the passing pattern or whatever it might be.
Yeah, interesting. Your one was interesting, Kinger. That popped ahead straight away.
The one now, I don't know if this is exact, because this was just prior to the off season last summer is when you said this to me, but you had said it in a different light about group sessions months prior, but it's fairly similar about chasing rabbits. So chasing one thing, which I really like. So the chasing one or two rabbits, and I referred to it day one of the off season with Ola and Promise about chasing one or two finishes, and that was it. I really like that, and it's also obviously it has to be adaptable stuff, especially for kids group sessions. So let's say you're taking a 10 to 13 group, I would go in with the intention for the month of working tight 1v1s. So like body feints, and that's like your general structure going into multi-gate so you can work, change the direction, so on. But then I'd be mid-session and I'd be coaching 4 or 5 different things. I'm like, okay, I need to stop doing this. And then you said it to me. I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I really need to stick on one thing. But then that's become now a little bit more flexible where you're chasing feints and so on. But sometimes, for example, I want to teach everyone the scoop. That is my one goal, is to teach everyone how to scoop the ball, get out of trouble, because it works all the time if you do it effectively and you learn it and understand the structure around players biting and which foot they go with and so on. It is quite detailed. But I'd be coaching feints and so on, and I'd be in that little tight 1v1 game that we all do. And I just see an opportunity to scoop, and I will stay on that for 2 minutes, and I will coach it, and I will refer to that for 3 weeks straight about that one move. Because I think if we can clarify and get that one move down, players would be dispossessed so much less than they would have if they didn't know that. Now, that's not the whole session. I'm not going, right, today we're doing scoops. That's not obviously the session topic. The whole idea is 1v1s. But if you chase that one thing and everyone understands it, and if I refer to, you should have scooped that there, I'd be like, I know. They kind of understand it, and they can bounce off that. That was when you said that to me about chasing rabbits. I thought it was really interesting. To chase 1 instead of 10.
Is that the thing you forgot?
Yeah, it was something. Yeah, because you'd said something in the chasing rabbits was a very specific analogy that you said. It was a quote from something. But you had said something very similar prior to that, like months prior to that, about in session topics. And then we as a company started really getting structured on session topics after that, and kind of sticking to it, which was very beneficial for me.
Did you say yours?
Oh, you did.
No, not something that I've completely binned. I think I thought it'd be a very interesting project if I went back to team coaching for a year to see what has changed, because it is entirely different now being supplementary coaching. If that makes sense.
I think I'm different in both. I'm different in the team.
Yeah. I think I would be more. I used to be very hands-on with teams, like control freak hands-on. I'd be so interested now. I think I'd be much more laid back. I think much more laid back. Yeah, sorry.
That's the one I was gonna. That's it. The one I was gonna say before Kinger kind of set me off on that one was, I used to be very similar to Kinger, where I'd like have so many things pre-planned. If you're doing patterns, I know patterns by ideas, but if you're doing like an attack and build a play, I'd want he moves here when the ball moves here and this, and and you can't coach like that. Like it's like FIFA coaching almost.
Yeah.
That was one of the best things I've been, because you kind of think that, oh, if this happens, they won't know how to deal with it. But obviously, the game moves a lot quicker than that. So more coaching patterns that have multiple solutions available to players, rather than it's like, go centre half, centre mid moves here, full back moves here, not, and it's like, right, well, you do that 3 times.
It's not
Yeah.
black and white. It can't be black and white.
No, exactly. You're trying to have enough movements or enough abilities to rotate that there's multiple solutions, hopefully. That I've gone more that way than I was before.
Do you think, okay, because the two years coach at what you clarify, top level, right? So I obviously underage 17s, National League, double champions, Champions League appearance, throw that in there as well. That's top level football, right? At each age group. Let's say I'm an under 14s. DDSL is the closest to us, so I'm just going to say that. I'm a DDSL A coach, okay? My team is good players, decent understanding. I've had them for a couple of years, and I'm trying to coach them an attacking phase. Do you think what you just said there goes across the board in terms of how you approach like coaching an attacking phase or build up, or does it vary depending on ability and also contact hours and so on?
The big thing is actually facilities. I was only chatting to a manager about this, where like you do coaching course and they always have to be about the ideal, like 11v11 scenario for the A license, or the B is 9v9. But even like that, like how many teams have that set up? We've been lucky, the team I've worked with, where generally have nice facilities in terms of having enough space to do whatever that is. But like a DDSL team like that could train on a 5-side like we do. So again, you can't really work on set movements. I'd kind of still say the same thing. Like you coach, depends on the way you want to play. Like if you want to have loads of rotations in your team, you coach that in possession drills. You coach that in small sided games, and it will naturally come out on the pitch if you want to let the kids do it. But you're probably going to cost yourself goals, because at one stage 3 your midfielders will rotate out and you'll have no one left centrally. Now that's a principle if you want to do it or not. It's very, how would you say, it can be very vulnerable. But the way I coach now, I would do it, and obviously it would be at a higher level now. If I had a 14th team, I'd still have the same principles that I coach. The solutions would be different based on the players. But I don't think it'd be much different.
Cool.
I think the detail would be different.
Yeah, of course.
Because you're obviously with 14-year-olds and you're like, you have to be real detailed, I think, whereas with the senior players, you trust that they know more.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
I also think what's very interesting, I think a lot of senior players are not that educated.
Really?
Yeah. Definitely from a technical point of view. Definitely. They just get to an area and they're like, well, I'm Lille. And a lot of them are. That's the thing. A lot of them are. And they'll just do their thing. But a lot just, self-awareness probably isn't a thing, but it's just, they get to certain spots and they couldn't tell you what they're about to do or why they're about to do it. And sometimes you're like, yeah, if they have the right answer. A lot of them don't have the right answer, though, in terms of they'll try a technique and they just keep trying it. Like, no, this is not the technique that is required in this area. Not that it vary. Of course, it can vary depending on goalkeeper position. I'm thinking about centre forward, goalkeeper position, defender's position, the way the pass is coming. Is it coming across your left shoulder? Is it coming across your right shoulder? Is it bouncing? So on. But a lot of them just don't know, which is fine. And I think managers, especially like yourself going into a senior environment, just go, centre forward, you should be able to score that. But a lot of them just don't know. They haven't been taught. And they also don't know it themselves. They're not working on it themselves. And now some players are different as well. Jamie Vardy has come out saying, don't work on finishing. Don't want to. I'm all instinctual. Which is grand because it worked for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever amount he was bagging for a while. But some centre forwards can't go a week without getting 1,000 reps. It's interesting. Like, very, very interesting. If you're thinking about very specific, now that's technical detail, I suppose. But
I think it's so broad, the senior players. So I think some of them love
100%.
everything, and they're like begging you to tell them a million things, and then some of them just you leave them alone. They do their business.
Yeah,
that's it.
Understanding that's
the
very tough.
human level, man.
And that's why, especially if you're doing like a session with 22 players, if I'm stopping it all the time at senior level, if I'm stopping the sessions all the time because I want to make my coaching points, people are gonna be like,
Yeah.
I know. You know what I mean? Not that.
Yeah.
I know.
I agree, man.
You can't waste like 5 people's time for the sake of 1 or 2. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be my deal.
Yeah, I got you. I think I got one more question before we wrap up.
Interesting.
Pick one thing you love to coach, give a high level overview of it as a spine that somebody listening could take it away as a coach and start to build sessions on.
Sessions off.
What's your favorite thing to coach? Give a high level overview of it and give me a structure. So I can start, right? So I personally love, my favorite topic ever, and this is my favorite thing doing with teams, was defending. Love defending. I had a group today, we done 1v1 defending, and this is like the high level principles of it. So it's a 4-week block. We introduced what's called the 4Ds, which I took from the Nike Academy, I would say about 10 years ago when they done that thing. I thought it was the best thing I've ever seen in my life because it summarized everything. And the 4Ds are delay first, so delay the opposition attacker and allow your team to recover. The second one is to deny, so to deny space in behind and in front. So being aware of what's behind you, being aware of what's in front of you, and what's the decision. The third D is deflect. So once you've been able to deny and delay the attacker space and time, deflect the ball as they make contact on strike, on goal or cross. And the fourth one is defend, which is just another word for tackle because they couldn't get a D as a tackle. But it was great. So that we kind of talked about that. And then to build into those 4Ds, the way that I would structure a session would be, before you get into any of the 4Ds, there's like two principles, which is your body shape and your triggers. So we're just introducing that. So what's the ideal body shape? I think most coaches know that. I think the big thing is about understanding when to get into that position and when to use sprints. So knowing when to actually sprint to deny space and knowing when to creep or crawl. So getting into your body position and narrowing the angles. And then triggers. But I think once you identify, or when you can give an overview of your trigger, so when you're going to press and when you can lock into your body position, that's when the 4Ds become quite evident and realistic. But I think that's a good spine for people to work off. And then you get into your 1v1 games, then you can really get into the details of those 4Ds. I love working off, what are they called? Like when it's 4Ds or like acronyms. Yeah. Kids remember acronyms, I think, really well.
3 Ps or something as well, isn't that one?
For finishing.
No,
It's the 3 Ps. Oh, there's 3 Ps for defending. But I use 3 Ps for shooting.
Yeah.
For shooting or for defending?
Position and pressure and patience.
Yeah. I love acronyms like that. The 3 Ps for shooting for me are prep touch, planted foot, punch for the contact. But people work off acronyms really well.
That's from Shane, like under 12s or something.
Yeah, acronyms, man. They're great.
I don't.
Like, we get him on the couch and grill him.
Yeah. But defending, those principles I will live and die by. So you can pick another one there.
We'll have to break down the Foxy low block. So funny. Anyone I ever talked to after like I was seeing our team or playing, always goes, defensive shape lads. Like, what do you do? How do you get them to do that? I was like, ask him. I was going to say,
Maybe that's why I love defending, because working with great, Garrow, great, unbelievable defending coach. Shane Fox, unbelievable defending coach. I mean, you're just ingrained in it.
You'll know this. Garrow obviously doesn't watch this, but it'd be funny if he did. You know, whenever we'd have like a mare from set pieces, and Garrow would like, give me 10 minutes on the Tuesday session, and he'd be doing defending things, you get the back line up, because kids' teams are terrible at that.
Yeah.
They're back, like, when they're defending a free kick, they sit, like, in the 6-yard box, and the first contact is a shot and goal. Whereas he'd obviously get them up to, like, edge of the box or whatever, and all that. So funny. Give it to him. Mine. I'm going to go with what recently, it's in the last year. I've gotten more fascinated with using small-sided games, and, like, rather than doing your generic, like, 2v2s or 1v1s, like, if you think of what, and I'm trying to use this as relevant to somebody, people might think, right, well, my striker doesn't hold the ball up enough, so he struggles 1v1 when he's pressure behind them. Rather than just doing generic one-on-ones where it's like defender plays, attacker dribble straight at him, like, I break one-on-ones down into pressure in front, pressure from the side, so like fullbacks and wingers, pressure from behind, so like pinning somebody, and pressure with a recovering defender. So like if you're like through on goal, another pressure behind you, but it's like they're running back pressure from a recovering defender.
Very difficult to play against that.
Yeah, and like how
1v2s and stuff.
You rely on your striker to score when they're through on goal, but you probably don't coach that scenario a lot. But like that, tweaking your small sort of games to fix the problem you want. If it's your centre forward doesn't pin, every one-on-one start, even doesn't matter what position, start them in the middle with the defender behind them. So you're just given a different problem. And that way with your team, you're never doing the same drill. Even though you could do a one-on-one every session, you could have a different start point and it just looks different and it's a fresher idea for players. So I would say be flexible with that with small-sided games. That's kind of something I've done a lot more than last year. I like to have a 2v2s, 3v3s. Is there a way you could start that replicates like a movement you want to see? If it's an overlap, underlap, from an attacking point of view or defensively, you could even start where you have the 3 attackers had the advantage on 2 defenders and there's like a recovering defender to join, so all of a sudden you're working on defending stuff. So I'd say vary up small-sided games and try them and see what works.
Nice. I'll come at it from a sort of mental point of view, because you all kind of are looking at a team point of view. One of my favorite things to coach is finishing, and obviously there's 101 different types of finishes. But like if you're to break down one obviously we always refer to and we get all of our players to pretty much work on. If you're a wide player or find yourself in these areas, obviously the Coutinho finish. So that setup, whether it's inside the box or outside the box, and picking up the scenarios, trying to break that down into, so again, chasing the rabbit for a month or two. So isolating it where you're literally looking at the setup and the hit, nothing else. No run up, no arced runs, nothing in the build up, literally just the ball's at your feet, get it to where it needs to be and hit it. So what I would do is paint the scenario, have them hit 30, 40 shots, watch it. Even less, sorry. You probably tell, previously it would have been a lot more. Now it's less. You hit about 10 shots and you can kind of tell, okay, this is their technique. This is how they hit it. Are they top spin? Are they bottom spin? Do they whip it? Are they more driven? You can tell that off like 1 or 2 strikes pretty quickly. And then going in and going, right, is this the right type of strike, but it needs a little bit of altering? Is it the complete wrong technique and this needs a whole rejig? Or is it just something, a small, minute detail that needs to change? Because the strike could be perfect, but the setup could be slightly wrong due to a backward setup, a sideward setup, or a frontal setup. And then coaching that. Once you get that, I would chase the setup for an hour. That's it. Get the setup correct. Get it to the right area. Understand the feeling of your planted foot being in the right place, your hips being in the right place, and then the actual contact in the ball. Then you worry about the scenarios, whether, let's say it is the Coutinho finish. Are you playing inverted? Are you playing in a box where you might get a back foot left if I'm playing left side of a box and I'm a right footer, left side of a box, back foot left, create a yard, and then that's it. You're going full back, going centre half. Hesitation. What's your hesitation? What's your setup? What's your touch point, or what's your initial pressure point? Get it out of there, get it around the obstacle, and then you're back to that contact. But without the first phase that you worked on, that setup and that hit, it's very difficult to coach the running part where you need to do this at 100 miles an hour and then set it up and then hit it and expect them to get it correct if they haven't hit that same shot like 100, 200, 300 times in the same place. So that's kind of how I'd break it down. And after you think they have it, you do it again for another couple of months. That's what, or weeks even, depending on how much time you have. But you might have access. Like for us, we work with some professional centre forwards for maybe max an hour, 2 hours a week. It's very difficult to cram what's required for a specific striking there. So you do provide a lot of variety. But if you're going to master a finish, don't hit 40 different strikes in a session. Pick one, set it up, hit it, try from different scenarios once you feel comfortable with the setup and the strike. And yeah.
Mine's ingrained in my head since I'm about 12. It's like reacting when you lose the ball. So it's like, I suppose transition to defend, right? But say like in little possessions. Remember we used to do 5v2s in UCD, and you lose the 2 in the middle win it, and the 5 in the end, just they like panic and they're all like trying to win it back. Yeah. I love that. Mm-hmm. I love like the whole idea of you lose the ball, straight away your mind needs to just go, alright, what am I doing? How can I win it back? If I can't win it back, Foggy done it as well. If I can't press it, do you press or do you drop off? You know them 2 little decisions, like whether you press it straight away or do you drop off, get narrow. And then the same even when you win the ball, do you build, go back, or do you break or build? Yeah, break or build. He'll love that now. I hope he's watching. Break or build. But I love the idea of as soon as one thing's gone wrong, switch on the head, and then my dad always go, turn on the brain, turn on like that. But you like overdoes it and like. Yeah.
Transitions are deadly to coach. Transition sessions.
I love the idea of all that.
Yeah, if you get a good transition, like if it's on it, like whether it's a counter attack or counter press, we'll say. They're such good sessions.
That needs to be like hardwired into a lot of people, doesn't it?
But that's how you get. I think, remember how even the 5v2s towards the end of the year, they were like,
some players,
so on it.
but some players just naturally like are proactive. I've seen Mourinho top of that. You have to anticipate the moment you're going to lose the ball.
Yeah.
And some players are like ridiculous at it.
Yeah. You could smell a bad touch coming.
Like,
Yeah, or a dodgy passes inbound. You're almost like sensing the next line of pressure. It's class. They are great sessions. Due to intensity, I suppose, is generally great. But
It can be in everything, can't it? It can be in any session.
Yeah, that's why I love defending the passion. I was only saying this to Ben earlier. The only time I've like real like screamed on a session is when like you're saying that you're doing 1v1 defending and somebody makes a last ditch block
it's great.
and you go crazy at it. Or we used to play like those red zone games, like the 2v2 bounce games, like 2v2 wars, and then somebody makes an unbelievable block and you're literally like jumping into the thing.
I loved doing them drills.
you would love 2v2 war. It's the best drill
Yeah.
like ever seen for defending. Basically, like, you pretty done it with Foxy. Where you're partnered up, you basically stay in for a minute in front of the goal, and everyone else just attacks on you. So it's like 2 attack. The minute they goes there, the 2 of them go, and the next 2 attack.
I
And you
love
just stay
that. I
there
love that so
making
much.
smash.
I would love that so much.
And you're going for a clean sheet, obviously.
I would love it. The biggest issue that players have in games like that is they get punished and they just disorganise.
But the
They're like,
problem is the minute that goes
oh,
in,
and then that's
the
it. They're running.
next
You're like,
ball
oh,
goes,
2, that's
you
3,
get
that's
hit
4.
for
You're like,
4.
oh my god, organised. I love it though. I love it so much. I do that for hours.
They're great
Hours. I love the feeling, and even just small things, getting the slightest minute stud on something and spinning it wide, just a little block, little something. I'm obsessed with it, which is weird, but I love it so much. Same in even basketball, just playing different sports.
Yeah, they are good.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
You
Yup.
wrap it up, wrap it in. Let me begin.
Goodbye.